Hello and welcome to the Road to Nowhere channel. Welcome back if you've been here before, or if you haven't, my name is Poppy Rowan, and along with our co-founder Jordan Tones, we specialise in creating content based around topical issues and human-centric conversations. So those conversations can and do include topics such as suicide, understanding how to talk to someone who is contemplating suicide, and overcoming your own personal emotional reactions to suicide. This is just a little trigger warning to say that that is what this video is going to include, so if it's a bit much for you, I would maybe advise watching it with someone if you can. So research does show that people are still very uncomfortable when talking about suicide, and QPR teaches that we need to recognise that fear and overcome it so that we can take quick, bold and positive action to save a life. As touched upon a little bit before, people who are contemplating suicide often try to give indirect or direct verbal clues in the weeks leading up to the suicide. People don't really want to have the rejection from just openly saying, I'm thinking about killing myself. They don't want to be ridiculed for it, so they will leave little clues like, you'd be better off without me, I may not be here in a couple of weeks, so don't get too used to having me around, things like that. This is because people who have blatantly came out and said, I'm thinking about taking my own life, can often be met with things like, that's just stupid, you're just doing it for attention, you don't mean that. And actually that's just the person who is receiving the information, the person who is receiving these clues that their friend or loved one is contemplating suicide, is often acting on their own emotional reaction. So they may be feeling, you know, angry that the person wants to take their own life. They may be denying the fact that it's even happening, and we need to get over that in order to actually help and advise this person. However, the most common response is actually silence or turning away from the person who is suicidal, and that is fear in action, and we need to change that to offering help and advice, which is courage in action. And it's a courage that everybody has inside of them. First thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is listening and just how important that can be. When talking to someone who you think may be suicidal, it's so important to listen out for those indirect verbal clues. For example, if they start asking strange questions, does 24 paracetamol kill you? Is it enough to kill you? That's a strange question. That should evoke some warning signs within yourself. Things like, I don't think I'm going to be around much longer. Those are also important to be listening out for, and if you do pick up on that and question them, that could potentially save a life. Suicide is nearly always premeditated. It is rarely an impulsive act. However, most suicidal people actually do want to live. They just want to be shown a way how to do so. Most people who are contemplating suicide feel hopeless, they feel intolerably alone, they can often feel like they're a burden to other people, and if we witness someone who is showing those signs, it's so important to just tell them in any way you can that they are not a burden, that they are loved, that they are cared about. Sometimes asking them questions like, if it was me who was feeling this way, what would you say to me? It can bring them back down to earth, it can level them up a little bit and make them sort of rethink their whole situation. Things like that. You never know what's going to spark a change in someone's mindset. You can also let them know that no matter how bad they're feeling right now, no matter how endless the negativity and trauma may seem, it is temporary. No matter how bad it is temporary, and this is a fraction of their life. Other people have gotten over it, and so can they. Any of those little bits of encouragement really could make a big difference. They need to be able to see that there is some form of light at the end of the tunnel that isn't ending their own life, and that there is a way that they can continue on living. Sometimes it's just hard for them to find that reasoning themselves. Especially, which brings me on to the next subject, if they are having really bad sleep disturbances, you can ask them, have you been sleeping okay recently? If more than likely the answer is yes, you can say, you know, you can't be contemplating anything massive like that when you haven't slept properly. Your mind's going to be everywhere, you'll only be feeling negative and, you know, quite down because you're not getting sleep properly. You can offer them things like over-the-counter remedies, such as, you know, Nidol, over-the-counter medications, putting a lavender scent on a warm pillow. I'm sure they may have googled these things themselves and found it out, but hearing from someone else, you know, it can still give them that little bit of encouragement to maybe actually go to the chemist and get themselves something. So QPR, if you've watched the other videos before, stands for question, persuade and refer. So we're going to go through those steps and how to actually use them. So first up is questioning. So obviously it can be quite difficult to ask someone such a big question. These are some helpful pointers and tips on how to actually do so. First of all, try and have a plan of when and where this conversation is going to take place. Try having the conversation in a private but comfortable place, and ensure you have plenty of time to talk to the person. You don't want to be questioning someone on something such a serious topic and then have to rush off to work in 15 minutes or something like that. So ensure that you actually have the time to properly listen and advise this person. So you can take a less direct approach and ask, you know, have you been feeling very unhappy recently? Do you ever wish you could go to sleep and not wake up? Or you can take the more direct approach and just outright ask them, are you thinking about suicide? Phrase this in whichever way you feel most comfortable. One thing I would say is definitely do not ask, are you thinking about doing something stupid? Because to them, ending their own life might be the only thing that makes sense in their head. So by you sort of belittling them and asking, are you thinking of doing something stupid? It might just make them feel a little bit patronised. So try and stay away from that particular way. So another point on the questioning, it also kind of ties in with the listening part as well, is your body language. It is so important, and it will be picked up on by the person who you're having the conversation with. It's very important. I cannot speak today. It's very important to give as much eye contact as you possibly can to the person. Really take in what they're saying. Make sure you're nodding and you are really listening. You know, it shouldn't be an act that you're listening. You should be engaged in the conversation. Don't rush to any judgment, even if you do think, you know, you have your own opinions on suicide, and we all do. Don't give them any reason to feel any worse. Just try and remain completely in the middle, and you're trying to reason with them and meet in the middle with this person on how you can help them help themselves, basically. Also, this person may be telling you things that you can relate to, and you may have felt this way in the past, or you may be feeling so in the moment. And I would say do share that with them and say, you know, I have been there, I felt that way. But I'd say give a little disclaimer and say, I'm not trying to, you know, take away from how you're feeling right now, and I know it may seem like you're the only person in the world feeling this, but I've been there too. But try not to take the attention away from them. They've probably been waiting a while to get all these built up emotions out, and maybe you have too, but this is not the time for you. If you're trying to help this person, then help them, and please do ensure that you do receive the help and have that conversation yourself if you do need to a bit later on. But just try not to interrupt them when they are telling you how they feel. So now we come to persuading, and basically all you have to do is get them to agree to get some help. If they say yes to the question of are you contemplating suicide, or however you choose to word it, then you have been successful in getting that person to open up. So don't take that lightly. It may have been a while since they have actually been able to do that with someone. So well done for making them feel comfortable enough to begin with. You can start by asking them, will you go with me to see a counsellor or whatever other professional that they are willing to see? You could ask them, will you let me make you an appointment with a counsellor? Or you can even go as far to ask them, will you promise me that you will not take your own life? And just by having that little verbal agreement, it enforces that you really do care about this person, and it will just give them one reason, which is all people need sometimes, to continue living and to carry on with that promise. So the last part of QPR is the referral, and hopefully you have done some form of research and have some names or phone numbers on your phone that are readily available. If not, it's always good to have those on standby just in case you ever are met with this situation, a person who is contemplating suicide. The best advice that QPR gives is you could personally take them to the appointment, because it can be very, very hard for someone who is in that state of mind to get themselves help or follow through with any appointments or make appointments themselves. It can be very, very hard. So by you getting the person to accept to go and see someone, by actually making the appointment for them and actually going with them, that just reinforces so much how much you care about that person, and again gives that person a reason to continue living. It's also best if you follow up with them, make sure, you know, have you made another appointment? Would you like me to make you another appointment? Just help in any way you feel you can. If you don't know a mental health professional, you can call your family doctor or their family doctor if you know it. You can also call your community crisis line or a professional mental health organisation in your area for a referral. If the conversation does get a bit much for you, if you yourself aren't in a very good mental headspace to be helping this person, then just truthfully tell them. Just truthfully say, listen, I'm not equipped to do this for you. I'm not in the best position right now, but we're both in this together. Let's go and get some help. Or, I'm not in the best position to be able to help you, but I know someone who is, and give them the number. Whatever it is you can do, explain to the person honestly. Don't just leave them behind with no explanation as to why you can't speak to them. People will understand. Another little bit of advice on drastic action if you are scared for this person's safety there and then. For example, if they've had a few drinks and you can't get them into a sort of stable state, if they're on drugs, if they're in a frantic state of anxiety. A couple of things that you can do is make it hard for them to commit suicide. Remove any rope, knives, poison, medications, car keys. Make it hard for them. It can buy you precious minutes or hours that the person can sober up, get a good night's sleep. Anything can change their mind. It will be hard. It'll be maybe one of the hardest things you've had to do, especially if it's your first time having to have one of those conversations. But find your courage. Don't worry about breaking trust if you do need to tell that person's parents, sister, partner, whoever it is. You'd rather the person be a little bit angry and upset with you than not having them in your life anymore, and that really is the bottom line. Don't worry about having insufficient information. You can still help. You know that person hopefully, so it could just be one sentence that'll change their mind, and I say that a lot, but it's true. If in doubt, act. Reach out to someone else, ask them for advice on how to advise this person, or ask them to help you, but do not give up. You can do this. Thank you so much. I know that was a very heavy video, and they all are, but you never know what little bits of information are going to stick in your head and what could help you in an everyday scenario that you didn't know it was going to pop up, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, thank goodness I watched that video. I really hope it's helped, and thank you so much for watching. Be kind, be safe, be positive, and have a good day. Bye!